Hegel. Hello and welcome to another episode of Ferret64 with me, your host, Yemmy the Ferret. Ferret64 is the one-stop shop for video game news, occurrences, first impressions, and so much more. We've had a couple of loaded episodes this past week, these past weeks, and today's is no exception. There was actual huge news in the world of gaming. We had a couple game releases that were pretty big. So we're just going to start off with a pretty quick part of the show, which is, what have I picked up this past week? Well, I didn't pick up too much this week. This is going to be a very quick part of the show. We have the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection. The only reason I'm showing this is because we played the first game on the disc on stream, and even though I've played through the series a couple times, I have the Platinum Trophy on all the games. I wanted to give it a replay because it's been a little while, and I'll talk about the first Uncharted in a little bit. Secondly is the game that you all know was going to be here, and that is Astro Bot. Picked up Astro Bot. On the inside here is this really cute... this really cute like comic book type thing that actually teaches you how to play the game. It's almost like a manual, but that's really cute. I really like that. And it does come with some goodies, which I did already redeem, but it comes with some goodies here, like an outfit and stuff for your character. On the inside, the disc is obviously in my console. I think that this little like mosaic of the various characters is pretty fun too. So we're actually going to start off by talking about this in the next section, which is, what have I been playing this past week? So yes, of course, I've been playing Astro Bot this past week. And, this past week, I mean, it was Friday when I picked it up, so it's not like it's been, weeks and weeks of me playing it. But I've been playing it pretty consistently for the past couple days here since I got it. Friday, I feel like I put in at least 5 hours into the game, and then Saturday, probably about 5 or 6 more, honestly. And I'm very much enjoying the game. I decided not to pick up Space Marine 2. One, I have been a bit bad with managing my money these past couple months, so I've been trying to kind of pull back on my spending and only really get games that I really, really want. And of course, Astro Bot was a game that I really, really wanted. So I decided to pick this up instead of Space Marine 2, which is actually coming out like Tuesday next week or whatever. It's in like not open beta. It's in like the deluxe edition had an early release. I mean, I see and hear good things about it. It's not like I don't want to buy the game, but it's just that it's. I mean, these games, they, especially when they're $70 each, start to add up a little bit quicker than they used to back in the day. So, I'll probably pick up Space Marine 2 eventually when it's on sale or something like that. But as of right now, the Astro Bot is really the big new game that I've been playing this week, and let's talk about it because I am very much in love with this game. Of course, I loved Astro's Playroom. I thought Astro's Playroom was like a perfect experience. It was, just a lovely tech demo essentially for the PlayStation 5, just kind of showcasing all the different ins and outs of the new controller and how the console works. And I thought that they did just such a good job with that. And just to have this Astro Bot game now in our hands, which is like the 3rd or 4th Astro game at this point. And it just really feels like they put all that they learned from Astro's Playroom and just kind of expanded on it in Astro Bot. Now, I'm going to try and not do any spoilers, but it's going to be very difficult, especially because there's a lot of like really cool things that are in this game, especially like the different cameos from the various Astro Bots. I'm gonna try my best not to spoil anything too later in the game. I'll probably talk about the first like galaxy that you go to, but I'll try not to expand on anything past the first galaxy. So, Astro Bot is obviously a platformer, a 3D platformer. You press square the swing your fist. You press X to jump. If you hold down square, it does like a powerful spinny move. If you double jump, little lasers come out of your feet. And if there's not a lot going on with the control scheme in the game. But I think they work within the confines of that simple control scheme pretty well, especially when you get like the different partners, I guess you could call them, that help you out. So one of the first ones that you get is these two like Rock'em Sock'em robot gloves that go onto your hands, and they have like little frog faces, and if you press R2 or L2, the fists like spring out, and they go really far ahead of you, and they hit whatever's in front of you. And it was a really, the haptic feedback on the controller just feels so good when you're using them. Like the adaptive triggers also feel really good when you're just using the frog punchy fists. And going through the entire level was kind of designed around that springy frog hands, right? And you go, oh, they're probably gonna, expand on this in a couple more levels and blah blah blah. Not really. I think there was only one other level that you used the frog springy hands, and that was for the boss fight at the end of the galaxy. So, it doesn't seem like they are letting anything overstay its welcome, or even like stay for dinner. The springy frog hands walk in, and they're like, "Wow, am I hungry?" And the Astro Bot just kind of ushers them out the door after they've said their hellos. And I don't mind this at all because it really keeps the game flowing. Like, not you're not using the frog springy hands for entire like 3 or 5 levels, right? You're using them for that level and maybe a little bit in the future, and then boom, you move on to the next idea, which is always so much fun. And sure, there's some things in the game that are based on Astro's Playroom. Like there is how in Astro's Playroom there's like you turn into like the big gorilla and you like have to like walk up a wall or climb up a wall, right? They kind of have that same thing in there, except it's a little monkey that goes onto your back, and instead of it being a giant gorilla-like creature, it's just the big hands come out, and you kind of do the same. You actually do exactly the same thing with the hands, but they do more with the hands now. So instead of it just being like a climbing tool, now you're picking up rocks and throwing them at enemies. Now you're opening up clamshells in this beautifully like pirate-themed level. Now you're doing various things with the hands throughout the entire level instead of it just being a climbing section with maybe a little bit of spinning, a little bit of platforming. So that's really cool too. They take the ideas from that Astro's Playroom and they go, okay, you remember this? Well, now we're going to do something completely different with it. Or they're going to do something similar, but something that you hadn't seen before. There's another gadget in there that you can get, which is like this dog that turns into a rocket, and it allows you to boost forward really quickly. Once again, this is another one that does show up a little bit later on, but, it has one level, and then you kind of go on to the next thing. But the little rocket dog, it's so much fun because they have you like blasting through like glass and stuff and blasting through enemies in a row. They designed these levels so well, so meticulously too, around like the way that the game works. There are plenty of little secrets to find in the levels too. Like, as you know, like the main thing about Astro Bot is rescuing all the different Astro Bots. It's been a staple of the series since the VR game, which was actually called Rescue Mission. And I'm wondering if they hadn't called that original Astro Bot game Rescue Mission, would they have called it just Astro Bot, and this game would have been an Astro Bot Rescue Mission? Because this game seems like more of a rescue mission than. Well, I mean that VR game also was rescuing bots, but this one has like 300 plus to rescue. I don't know. But essentially, there's about 5. Yeah, there's like 5 to 7 in each level. It varies a lot, and some of them are like PlayStation brand characters. Most of them are just like generic Astro Bot characters that you rescue. So what I was imagining when they announced like over 300 Astro Bots to rescue, I was like, oh my god, like they're going to really touch on every little piece of PlayStation lore in this, aren't they? Well, not exactly. There's probably about 100 to 120 or so like PlayStation branded bots, or not even PlayStation, but video game themed bots, and then the rest of them are the like kind of like generic ones that kind of just pop up and start rebuilding things for you. But you know, the PlayStation themed ones are really cool. Like one of the first ones that you find is Jack, and you save him from one of the UFOs that's flying around. And then when you go back to the hub world, which is a whole nother thing to talk about, you can unlock Daxter to be like you use the little crane game that you used before in Astro's Playroom, but instead of unlocking like the pieces of you know, like the different PlayStation memorabilia, it's unlocking the little extras for the characters that you find. So Jack starts off with just that Jack, and then you pop open the ball, and boom, now he has Daxter on his shoulder. And when you punch them in the hub world, they do something special. A lot of them do something special when you have the various weapon or whatever accessory with the characters. And like it's actually very early on that you start to find characters that aren't entirely PlayStation coded, but maybe appeared on the platform or were adjacent to the platform, or maybe they were mascots in the past. One of the first ones that got spoiled for me personally. If you've been playing the game, you already have this character for sure. I mean, it's impossible to miss them. But if you want to skip ahead, like do a little Spotify skip ahead 15 seconds, I'll say it real quick here. But you find Crash Bandicoot very early on, and it's like he's not entirely PlayStation anymore. He's actually Xbox now. So it's kind of cool that, okay, we have Crash Bandicoot, and you know, later on you find, because there's two different kinds of Astro Bots you find. There's the regular Astro Bots, like the one on the, you know, like the one on the cover, and then there's also the animal coded ones for like PlayStation or video game characters who are not entirely Astro Bots. So instead of making them, you know, instead of just not putting them in the game like they did in Astro's Playroom, well, now here we go. You know, you have these little Astrobot looking animals that also can be mascots. So one of the first ones you find after you complete the first area, skip ahead 15 seconds if you want to skip this one, is the cat from Stray is in like one of these little eggs. All the animal ones are in the eggs. So you pop open the egg and here's the Stray from Stray, or here's Spyro from Spyro the Dragon, right? So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, and I love finding these little things. I love trying to place where the characters go, like, oh, that guy's from Eco, or oh, that's from that game that Callus really loves and he always talks about, but I always forget the name of it because I've never played it before, but I know what it is. I know what it is. He's probably going crazy, screaming it right now. So it's just cool to place all these different characters in their respective locations and or their games, and you know, then interact with them in the hub world and give them their accessories so that it can really flesh out the character. And sometimes you can be like, oh, who the heck's that guy? And once you give them their accessory, it's like, oh, it's the guy from Ghouls and Goblins or something, right? So it's very cool, and like I said, it's not entirely PlayStation coded. There's characters who appear on multiple platforms, but as long as a character had a presence on the PlayStation, a lot of times, then boom, bada bing, there you go. They're available there to be found. And I still haven't found a character from Concord yet. Waiting for that one to happen. You know that there's one in here. I would be very surprised if there was not like one bit of representation for Concord, the game that came out right before this one. But you never know. I also haven't found Knack yet, and I'm like, hello, he's got to be in here. Like, Knack is huge. But it's just been fun to find the various characters and place them in the video game worlds that they come from. It's just been a blast. And there's other things you can find in the levels too, other than just Astrobot. So there's these puzzle pieces that I believe were in the playroom as well. And what those do is you get enough of them, and they give you something in your hub world. So the first one is obviously the crane game machine that allows you to get the accessories for the different characters. The second one is different like paint jobs for your controller, because your controller is actually a big part of this game too, which I'll hopefully touch on a little bit later too. So you get like these new buildings for the area, and they're pretty cool. I thought that they were pretty cool. So that's fun. There's about 3 in each level for the puzzle pieces. And then sometimes there's a secret exit in levels. I believe there's like 2 or 3 in each galaxy that you visit. And essentially you just got to find the secret exit. And once you go to the secret exit, it unlocks a bonus level in the bonus galaxy. So each galaxy has probably about 4 main levels, maybe 5 or 4 main levels. And then there's a couple like side levels that you can do as well. And then on top of that, there's like quote unquote secret levels that could pop up where you run into like an asteroid or whatever, and boom, you get a bonus level. And usually the bonus levels are like, oh, just fight this group of enemies or go through this quick platforming section. So they're not like super long, but they're fun to do. Like there's these challenges specific to the different buttons on a controller. So there's triangle, square, cross or X, and O. And each one has like these little speed running levels that you go through, and you get like a special character at the end of them. So the first ones that you get, I believe, are the triangle ones, and they're a bit of a step up from the regular levels. I will say, but they're not like overly difficult. The game starts to become a little bit more difficult by the time, like midway. I felt like midway through the third area, like the third galaxy, I was starting to have to go back through and find a couple of Astro Bots that I missed, or find a secret exit here or there that I missed. So in the end, it's not like a terribly difficult game by any means, but it does start to give you a bit more challenge as you go farther, which is nice. It's a bit of a slow burn, but it's definitely a challenge that does eventually build up a little bit. I'm in the 4th galaxy right now, and it has been it's still not. It's not like it's like I'm stuck or anything like that. But it's gotten a little bit more difficult with the various ways that they are working within the confines of the game. So I don't want to say what exactly is going on, because I know there's a lot of people who aren't as far as me. But if you are as far as me, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Like there's a lava level that's a bit tougher than the other ones, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to go into specifics, of course. So in each galaxy, there's also a boss fight at the end of each galaxy, which can be very fun. The first one wasn't like super crazy in my opinion, but it was still really cool visually. And that's kind of the, and there's a bunch of like little mini bosses throughout the levels too that you can find. So it's got a lot of charm and love put into it. The boss fights are like the magnum opus for this game, because even though they're not incredibly difficult, like I said, but they're just very they're very bombastic. There's a lot going on. And then the big surprise at the end of the first boss fight is that a new level opens up, and it's completely themed around a PlayStation IP. So the first one is Ape Escape. And you have to hunt and track down like 8 apes plus 1 bad guy in the Ape Escape themed level, which is just so much fun. It really is. It kind of made me want to go back and play Ape Escape, right? And it also was like, wow, this is what an Ape Escape game could be. Like we could have like modern controls, and we could have like modern graphics, and it would probably be pretty cool. So a lot of people who are fans of the more underground IPs from Sony are probably going to be a bit like up and down, because they go, oh wow, a whole thing for Ape Escape, but it's too bad we don't have a new one, right? That's kind of how I felt going through some of these areas and finding various characters too. It's like, oh my gosh, there's an entire area for Ape Escape that's awesome. Why don't we have another Ape Escape? Like, why haven't we had one since like PS2 or PS3? Like, what the heck is going on with that? Or, you find a character who is obviously an old school mascot for Sony, like Sly Cooper. And it's like, thank goodness they remembered Sly Cooper, right? But like, why don't we have another Sly Cooper game? Like, even if it's given to a different studio inside of PlayStation that's not, Insomniac or whatever, you can still give us another Sly Cooper. And that kind of goes back to my argument about like, okay, well, why does every single game have to be a AAA, $80 million to $100 million, 10 years of development? Why does every game that's coming from Sony have to be a big bombastic game? Why can't we just have some smaller experiences like put out a couple Ratchet and Clank games every so often. Put out a Sly Cooper or an Ape Escape or something that's not as in depth as something like a Last of Us or your Ghost of Tsushima's or whatever. Like, put us, fill in the cracks here. That's all I'm asking for, because there's a lot of IPs at Sony, and we'll talk about it later, that just are kind of underutilized, and they could be really good, like, placeholders. Like, okay, here's your Sly Cooper game during, like, the summer days. The big release this year is going to be Astro Bot, or the big release is going to be Ghost of Tsushima 2. Like, just think about playing that smaller package for like $40 to $50, and then going on to the $70 package and being like, okay, I can really see the difference in, like, okay, this one's a bit of a smaller game. It's only like 12 hours long, and blah 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 blah. And this one's like huge, like, oh yeah, lots of detail in the graphics, big open world to explore, etc., etc. I've gone on a tangent. I apologize. I've gone on a tangent. Let's get back to Astro Bot. But it is cool to see a lot of these. It's cool to have like this big map in this area designed around a single game, and it happens after every single boss fight. So now I'm like very excited to see, like, what's the next one going to be? Is the next one going to be Concord? I don't know. But it's very cool to see, and I'm sure you can kind of guess, like, because the biggest IPs seem to be getting the biggest the big treatment. Although it's crazy that Ape Escape got the first one, but maybe it's just because they wanted to start off with something a bit wacky, a bit goofy, something that wasn't well known or as well known as some of the other properties that they have. But you kind of know like what's going to be the big level for the big IPs from PlayStation. But I'll let you discover them on your own at your own leisure. So that's pretty much the basics of like the levels and stuff like that. The hub world is really cool, like I already said. You get the gacha machine. You see all the Astrobots standing around and doing their thing. You give them accessories. You paint your controller different colors. You find puzzle pieces. But inside of the hub world, there's also side areas to go to that require a certain amount of Astrobots to help you progress or find different things. So what I thought was, in the trailer, you see like all the Astrobots following you around. They're making like ladders and bridges and stuff for you. I thought that was like in the levels themselves, but no, that's actually in the hub world. So the hub world is actually broken up into the main hub world in the middle, and then there's as many galaxies as there are side areas around it. And what you do is you find your Astrobots, and you use like 10 to get to the first area, and then the next thing's like, okay, we need 30 Astrobots to lift this rock and uncover a puzzle piece or another Astrobot, or get to one of those eggs that I was talking about with the animal characters inside of them. Or, you need like 60 to get the... there's like this little satellite thing that helps you track down the next area to go to. So you need like 60 Astrobots for that. And it really does... it incentivizes you. Is that how you say it? Incentivizes you to go and get the Astrobots and the puzzle pieces, I guess. But go to get the Astrobots to get through these other areas and get all the stuff done. So it really does make you want to go back, and if you missed one or two here or there, go back and collect them, and then continue on, so that you have enough to get through whatever challenge or whatever barrier is preventing you from going on and getting something special in the side areas. So that's also a nice thing that the game does as well. And there's a good amount of progression in the game too, as you find more Astrobots, as you save more pieces of the PS5 ship that gets broken apart at the beginning of the game. The Astrobots and the PlayStation 5 start to keep building back to normal as it goes on. So it's very cool. Very nice. Other than that, the music is amazing in the game. It has a 5 out of 5 music soundtrack to it. It has some of the same music from Astro's Playroom, so it's not like you're gonna be like, oh, that's a completely new track every time you listen to it. But the new stuff that is in there is really good, and the old stuff is also really good too. Like there's there's the main theme that's always stuck in your head. Like it's fun, it's whimsical, it's really good, and the soundtrack goes hard in this game for sure. The one thing that I kind of regret is I didn't get the Astrobot controller. I for whatever reason, whenever I went onto PlayStation Direct, even if it was available, for whatever reason, it wouldn't let me check out. So I think that really would have completed the package because your controller is actually kind of important in the game. Not only is it how you control the characters, but you also use it to fly into every level and fly out of every level, one. And two, it'll actually show up sometimes to do various other things as well. And then in the hub world, you also are on top of the controller, flying around in like a top-down scenario, flying around the controller to get to each level. So your controller is actually very prevalent in this, and the base controller for Astro Bot is the version that is the special edition controller for the game. So it was kind of like I started up the game and I'm using my Spider-Man 2 one, and I looked down and I'm like, oh, that would have just been the complete package right there if I had the Astro Bot controller in my hand right now, you know. But it's still really cool though. It's a really highly detailed controller in the game. It maps your, just like in Astro's Playroom, it maps your controller movements and stuff like that. So if you press on the joystick, it shows it pressing in the game, and if you press X and R2 and L2, it does stuff in the game itself. So it does do a lot of what you expect it to do, for sure. So yeah, I mean that's like my first impressions of Astro Bot. Obviously, I've played enough that it's not really a first impression, but it's more like an impression, and it's just really good. It's really good. I've been trying to get people to make this the best-selling Astro Bot game. Anytime anyone's like, I'm not sure if I want to get it, I'm like, get the game. Just get the game. It doesn't matter what kind of gamer you are, whether you love first-person shooters, sports games, fighting games, etc. This game seems to be overwhelmingly for anyone, right? It doesn't matter if you like a more challenging experience or an easy experience. I think that everyone can have a bit of a fun time with this game. And I'm sure that there are some people out there who maybe they won't enjoy it, obviously. Maybe it's a bit too basic for them, or maybe it's a bit too chaotic for them, or maybe I don't know what the various criticisms could be for this game. But I'm sure there's someone out there who has something to say that maybe not a lot of people would agree with, but look, that's your own prerogative. If you want to be a negative Nancy about the game, go ahead. It's up to you. Just don't come into a Discord when I'm like praising the game and be like, actually the game sucks. And it's like, are you trolling or are you just stupid? Maybe both. Anyway, yeah, the game's really good. I'm enjoying it a lot, and I'm sure that you would too. So anytime anyone's like, oh, I can't wait to get Astro Bot, I'm like, the time is now. Get Astro Bot now. It's great. It's worth your money. Like, there's so many games that you get nowadays that's like $70 experience, and it's like, I feel like it's not really $70. Astro Bot is $60. Like, this is not an ad for the game whatsoever. This is just me being passionate about a game that I love. This is $60, and it's really good. They're putting the Until Dawn remake out for $60. Is that worth $60? No, not in my opinion. The Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, which came out a couple years ago. Great game. Love that game. $70, though? I don't know. This one seems priced very fairly. Definitely check this out. I understand not everyone's going to be able to, afford Astro Bot or play Astro Bot because it's only on PlayStation 5, or if you don't have a PlayStation 5, then oops, I guess you're out. But this is like, I would say that Astro Bot is one of the first like really, really must-play games on the console. Like, there's Astro's Playroom, of course. There's God of War Ragnarok. There's Horizon Forbidden West, and Returnal. A lot of people love Returnal. But this is going to be, I think this is going to be right there in the conversation. Astro's Playroom, Astro Bot is going to be right in there with the conversation of games that are like must-plays on the PS5. And the PlayStation 5 doesn't have a lot of games that utilize the controller like this game does. Like, sure, there's Returnal and Astro's Playroom and Astro Bot. There's like 3 games that really, really utilize the controller to its fullest potential, which is really cool that we finally got another one that I can say, like, yeah, this one definitely utilized the controller. That's great. One of the last things I want to say is find out for yourself. Don't look up any secrets or anything right away. Find out for yourself. Don't go through the list of all the different Astro Bots. It is so fun to come across an Astro Bot or an Animal Bot that you feel like you and maybe like 50 other people know exactly what the bot is supposed to be, right? There's no way to describe that feeling when you open up an egg or you find an Astrobot and you're like, that's niche. I know that. And there's so many people online who are like, what is this? And it's like, I know what it is. There's no better way to describe that feeling of finding that bot and being like, oh, wow, that is something that me and maybe 1,000 other people know. There's one in particular that I want to say because it was very niche. Physically, it only got a release in Japan, but I have to spoil this one because it was one of those moments where I open up the egg and I'm like, and then the name of the character came up like it's like a jokey name, and I was like, Urban Survivor, and it was like it was like one of those little pom pom dolls, not dolls, dogs, right? Pom pom dolls, dogs, and I'm like, holy shit, that's that like Urban Survivor game where you play as like the little Chihuahua dog, and you like kill wolves and you hunt animals. And it was like a 2D game, and it's like it was just so cool to be like, they remembered this super niche game that I felt like only me and like 15 other people played. It was one of those moments that was like, oh my god, I cannot believe that they remembered this. So yeah, that's Astro Bot. Play Astro Bot if you haven't yet. It's very good, very enjoyable, very fun, full of love, full of charm, full of charisma, full of amazing moments. There's so much more that I could talk about, but I don't want to spoil anything. I felt like I've already said a bit too much in terms of like what you can do and stuff like that, but just know that it really continues to evolve from what I've already talked about with the different pals you can get, the different platforming challenges and stuff like that. It all evolves throughout the entire game and keeps building on top of itself, which of course I love. So there you go. That is Astro Bot. Okay, I also played the Black Ops 6 beta, the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 beta. It included the multiplayer and I think partially some zombies in there. I didn't play the zombies, even if it was available. I didn't play it. But at Black Ops 6 beta, pretty much played some multiplayer matches. It feels very similar to Cold War, which is a good thing because I liked Cold War's multiplayer. But it also has some, I don't know, new things, quote unquote new things. There's a whole new like movement system, I guess, where you can like jump and spring from any angle, and it's just kind of obnoxious, especially when people like spring around corners and you're not expecting them to like do certain things. I mean, I'm not gonna like sit here and be like, oh my god, the new movement is so cool, guys. Like the same thing for Madden with the boom technology. Like I can sit here and be like, well, the boom technology, I mean, it kind of makes a difference, but it also really doesn't. Same thing with this movement system. It's like most people I know are probably not going to be sliding and zipping around the map with the movement system. Wasn't it? It was not that long ago that Black Ops 4 was around, and people were like, I'm so over the jetpacks. I'm so over the movement system. And now they've essentially brought it back. Like, no, there's no double jump, but you're doing essentially the same things that you could do when you had like that boost rig on or whatever. Like you quickly go left, you quickly go right, you quickly slide and jump and whatever. So I'm sure this is going to be like a one-time thing, but sliding and dolphin diving has been a big part of Call of Duty for a while now. And Black Ops was the dolphin diving game, and Modern Warfare was the sliding game. So it is weird that they've kind of removed the dolphin dive now, and we're back to sliding for Black Ops. So, that's a bit weird. That's a bit controversial, I would say. They did stick with the characters instead of like a generic Russian force or generic Black Ops force, right? They did stick with the characters, and that's obviously because a lot of people pay money to play as specific characters, like Nicki Minaj. I can't even say her name, or Woods or whatever. Of course, they're gonna have like the character packs still in this game, which all started around like the Call of Duty Ghost time when you could play as various Call of Duty characters. Like I think there was like a Makarov skin and there was like a Snoop Dogg voice pack and stuff like that. So it started a while ago and now it's kind of reached its antithesis. Like there's really nowhere else they can go with the characters because you get what you get. You have what you have. So, and then the weapon selection was actually quite small in my opinion. I really there's only like 2 assault rifles, 3 submachine guns, 1 LMG, 2 sniper rifles, 2 pistols, 1 rocket launcher. I was very much like, this is kind of weird. I mean, obviously, it's probably not the entire roster of guns, hopefully. But, having 3 assault rifles, 3 submachine guns, like, I don't know. I'm hoping that there's more in here, because the few guns that I did play with felt fine. The first assault rifle, the first submachine gun, the LMG, it all felt fine. Like, I'm not gonna come on here and be like, oh, it was the worst feeling Call of Duty ever. No. Vanguard took the cake on that. It feels good. I will say, I still have the same problem where it'll put you into a match with people who, are very low skill level in the game, and you'll just rip through them for like 2 matches straight, and then all of a sudden the game's like, oh, they're really good. Put them into the lobby with the MLG and FaZe Clan people, please, and then your whole team gets destroyed for 3 or 4 matches, and then you go back to being on the on the team with the, going really good. And it kind of does that same thing. And obviously they've designed this system around the idea of like, oh, 1 more match. I can't end on a loss. We gotta go 1 more match. And then they give you a really good match, right? Against players who are a little bit lower skill level than you. And you go, oh, wow, I need to play another match. And then they put you into a match with the high skill level people. And then you say, oh, I can't end on a loss. It's just keeping players around, keeping them in the game. Call of Duty doesn't really have any issues with keeping player bases, though. I mean, there's still people playing Modern Warfare, the original Modern Warfare 3 out there, like the multiplayer. It's like I don't see why they need to put this incentive in here of like, okay, we're gonna put you into a match with people who are vastly under your level, and now we're going to put you into a match with people vastly above your level. I don't know. It's just so weird. I don't understand the matchmaking. I don't completely understand why the matchmaking is the way that it is. But as of this point, I've had decent matches to good matches to bad matches. The whole trifecta, and I just, the multiplayer is relatively the same that I've always, the relatively same experience that I've always had with the games. Except for Modern Warfare 3, the new ones, multiplayer, I thought that was relatively bad in a lot of ways. It felt fine, but the maps were designed for Modern Warfare 2, and the new gameplay was just not suited for the maps that were in Modern Warfare 2, and it just kind of ruined the experience for me personally. But the Black Ops 6, it feels fine. The new maps are actually kind of cool. Like there's one that's like this house, and you're going through the house. There's another one that's like a street, which I was kind of annoyed with. There's like buildings in the middle, and then there's streets on either side. I don't know. It was kind of lame in my opinion. There was one other one that I played. I kind of forget what it was. Iraq or whatever they call, or whatever it was. That one was actually pretty good, especially for Hardpoint. I feel like that's a really good map for Hardpoint. Once again, Hardpoint and Domination are my 2 favorite game modes. For the beta, you can't pick and choose, though. You just have the core set list, so you're switching between a couple of game modes, like your Kill Confirmed, your VIPs, and your Team Deathmatches, along with Hardcore and stuff like that. So I wasn't like super jazzed about playing Team Deathmatch again in Call of Duty because I've always found that Team Deathmatch is the worst way to gain XP and stuff like that. Obviously, it's a classic game mode, and they're never going to take it out. But when it comes to earning kills, getting XP, Hardpoint is definitely the way to go, and second best is Domination. And if you disagree with that, let me know in the comments below what the best way to get XP is, besides from Search and Destroy, because you get like 500 XP per kill. Besides from Search and Destroy, I feel like Hardpoint and Domination are the way to go for just high levels of XP, and then kind of Kill Confirm comes in like a close 4th or 3rd, depending on how you look at it. So, yeah, there's really not much else I can say other than the game looks great. It plays pretty well. I mean, I'm running it on my PC through Steam, and it plays. I mean, it seems fine. You know, I really haven't had any hiccups. I've been using both mouse and keyboard and controller, so it's, you know, I felt it both ways, and it wasn't too bad either way. And you know, I'm more interested. Of course, I'm you know, I'm a special person. I really only play Call of Duty for the campaign and a little bit of multiplayer at this point. So I am more interested in playing through the campaign because I've, you know, in general, the Call of Duty campaigns have been pretty good over the past couple years. The Modern Warfare 3's was terrible. Vanguard's was below average, but the rest of them have been decently good to good. So I'm hoping that this one's going to be on the same level as Cold War, hopefully better, because even at the end of the day, like, you know, the ending of Cold War isn't like amazing, but still, it's still a good campaign. So I'm hoping that this one kind of, you know, maybe does a little bit better or is at least on the same level. But with it coming to Xbox Game Pass, at least I don't have to pay extra money to just, you know, just play the campaign for it and be like, okay, well, there's a little bit of multiplayer and I'm done. I feel like I'll play through the campaign maybe once and then I'll probably be done with it after that. I'll sprinkle in some multiplayer here and there, but yeah, I mean, Call of Duty just doesn't capture me the same way as it used to, mostly because the new movement systems and the new way that it plays just doesn't feel great. And when Call of Duty World War II came out, it really felt like a blast from the past. It really felt like the old school Call of Duty games. And then they went back to, you know, that Modern Warfare style, and Black Ops got a new whole system with Cold War. And I was just like, you know, it's just kind of pushing me away from the game a little bit, because I do enjoy more so the Call of Duty games that are a bit more basic with the way that they play. You know, the advanced movement system, like, even though it's cool, it's just not something that I'm like crazy about. For like single player stuff, it works fine because it gives you all the advantages that you need. But in multiplayer, it just kind of becomes a bit annoying to me personally. Plus, like, having all the different characters running around, at least in this iteration of the game, like when you're playing as generic male character number one, and you're playing, you know, on one team, the opposite team's version of that character is a bit reddish in their outfit, so it kind of gives you a bit more visual distinction, which is great. You know, your guys are bluish, the enemy teams are reddish, so I like that a lot. I feel like that is a good thing for them to do. It gives each team a bit more distinction between, you know, who's on each team. You know, because Modern Warfare, especially the latest one, there are so many characters that are just one note, like black, gray, brownish kind of clothes that they're wearing. And then you have some of these like random characters who are like bright pink, Nicki Minaj. I hate to keep bringing that up. I'm sorry. You know, bright pink or, you know, bright colors, and they get like smoked immediately because every other character in the game are dark colors, spec ops, you know, underground, you know, kind of clothing. So it's actually a bit of a disadvantage to wear like the Terminator outfit or the I'm not going to say it again. I'm not going to say her name again. But that costume, it's a bit of a disadvantage because the characters are so bright and colorful. So at least in this game, the distinction is nice. It definitely distinguishes the two sides with the two different colors, which does help. So that's my experience with the Black Ops 6 beta. I'm probably not going to play too much more of it right now. I'll probably just wait for the full package when that releases on Game Pass. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll talk about it more in the future. All right, let's quickly hit some other things. I did finish SteamWorld Heist 2, and it was great. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I really liked the ending of the game, and I also really like the game in general. It's really good. If you want to hear more thoughts about that, of course, I have 3 other episodes at this point where I talk about the game. Also, Quidditch, what's it called? Quidditch World Championships or whatever. The Quidditch game that came out. It's fine. I'm not a huge Potter fan, Harry Potter fan, but for what it's worth, it was fun here and there. It had its enjoyable moments. It wasn't like my favorite thing ever. It was interesting that you could switch between the different roles at whenever you wanted to. So if you wanted to be a snatcher, you could, or if you wanted to be a beater, you could. You could just kind of switch between whatever you wanted to. The gameplay itself, I wasn't like super jazzed about the broomstick stuff. It felt like Rocket League at times, but not as tight and good as Rocket League. So, There you go. For a PlayStation Plus game, it's fine. At least I didn't have to pay money for this. And then also there is a bit of a campaign mode. You have to like go through 3 tournaments or whatever. So I guess that's what I'll determine if I beat the game. That'll be my beating the game thing criteria. I don't know if I'm going to do that at this point because I'm already like a week removed from the game at this point. It came out on Tuesday, and I've not really thought about it since Tuesday. So I might not go back to it, honestly, but you never know. And then I also played a game called Akimbot. This one's been on my wish list for a while. This is like a Ratchet and Clank inspired game where you have your Ratchet type character and your Clank type character, and you work together to get through these areas. The difference is that everyone's a robot in the game, and the robots that you play as are a bit more. They're like Ratchet is a lovable hero. Clank is like the reject evil guy who is a good guy, really smart, right? This game, the characters are a bit insufferable. The Ratchet type character is just an asshole, and the Clank type character is just annoying. But the gameplay is good. That's the main thing, and maybe the characters will grow on me as I play. But as of this point, Akimbot, pretty good. I have to play more of it. I'm just through the first area right now, the first level right now, so I'll definitely be playing more of that when I have a chance. For games that we streamed this past week, Uncharted Drake's Fortune. I thought that the game held up decently, but not great. Even the remastered version is not like my favorite thing ever. I think the level design is a bit annoying at times. Just mindless shooting in every single area started to become a bit grating towards the end. I thought that the story was like back in the day, like the story is really good, but I feel like the story was decent at best in this one. The ending is abysmal in my opinion. The ship section where you're trying to hide from the guy's laser sight and you do some quick time events at the end. I thought that I think that that's like one of the worst endings in video games. Like it's not like okay, maybe that's exaggerating. It's not one of the worst endings, but it's definitely a disappointing ending after going through the entire game itself. It does have some cool moments in it, like finding the German U-boat just kind of randomly in the jungle. Like that's a cool moment. It also has that whole section with the Jeep where you're shooting the gun off of the Jeep, and that's also very fun. But other than that, it's knowing where the series goes, I can't really give it too high of a rating. So I gave it a 3.5 at the end of the day for Uncharted Drake's Fortune, and this was a replay. Like I said, I've platinumed the game already. So it's just a bit of a replay, kind of going back to it, because I haven't played it since like 2016, so I need a bit of a refresher on the series. Other games we played, Fury, Furi, Fury, not starring Tom Hanks, or, I'm just going to leave it at that, not starring Tom Hanks. So Fury is a game that came out like 2014 or whatever. It came to PlayStation Plus, and it's like a boss rush kind of game where each level is essentially just a different boss, and the bosses are designed very well. I really, really enjoyed my time with this. I did not get the ending that I guess I should have gotten, so I'm definitely going to go back through and play it when I have some time, and I'm not like swamped with new games. But it was very fun. The music was great. The art style was decent. Like the character models were a bit ugly at times, but when you're just fighting the bosses, the art style is fine. And yeah, I mean, I got a hold of the combat pretty early on. I already played through about half the game back in the day, so I already knew a lot of what the first couple bosses did. But also, I kind of already had like this memory in the back of my mind of learning the controls back in the day, so I kind of could grab onto that as well. So I pretty much got through most of the bosses in one go. At the end of the day, I had an A rank at the end of the game, and I know that there are there's a boss at the end that I missed because I chose the wrong ending. So I'll go back through and play through it again and see what else I can find for the game. But it was really good. It was really good. If you have the game and because of PlayStation Plus or other reasons, definitely give it a try. It was really fun. It wasn't as difficult as people made it out to be, from what I've heard, and or maybe I'm just that good at gaming. I don't know. And then finally, for streaming games, Halo 3 was the finale to our gaming bonanza, our summer backlog bonanza. So now we're going back to the regular streaming, which is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays. But Halo 3, done and done. Very good game. I didn't spend as much time with Halo 3 as I did Halo Combat Evolved. But Halo 3 is still an excellent game. It's a perfect like send off for the original trilogy. I know they of course made more, but it's a perfect send off for the original trilogy, keeping the ending a bit ambiguous, but also being like, okay, so the war is over and now Master Chief goes back to sleep. Like, it's a perfect like roundabout way of getting back to Halo 1 in a way. There was like two levels that I thought were kind of weak in the game, which was the one where you kind of go through the flood ship. It was just kind of annoying. And then the final level, they try to recapture the magic of Halo 1. It kind of gets there, but it also doesn't get there. So, like, it's not a bad level by any means, but, it's one of those ones that I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't really want to replay that one. It's just kind of like, it's just kind of boring. But the rest of the levels are really good. There's a lot of variety in the game, a lot of cool sequences that happen. One of my favorite sequences in the game that I'll remember forever is you're driving a mongoose and you got a guy with a RPG on your back in the second seat, and you fight a scarab with like a bunch of mongooses. I thought that was just such a cool idea. Like the weakest thing in the Halo universe, the mongoose, like quad bike, against the scarab, which is arguably one of the most threatening land vehicles in the game. And you take it out with these little rocket launch dudes. I thought that was just such a cool thing. There's also this really fun section where you're driving on the Warthog. I mean, there's just so many good sections in the game. It's not all just like shooty room to room. There's a lot of cool stuff going on, lots of memorable stuff, and the story is also really good too. Like, there's a lot of games that the third game in the series kind of gets panned because the story is not as exciting or good as the other games in the series. This one definitely rises above and is like the best story out of the entire Halo series. Arguably, oh my god, arguably better than Halo ODST and Reach, but yeah, I mean, if I was to rate all the Halo games, because I've played all the original games from like that original run, I would say the original run is like Halo 1 through Halo Reach is like the sweet spot for Halo, right? And then 4 came out a while after Halo Reach came out. So I would say, starting from the top, Halo 3 is definitely my favorite of the group, with Halo ODST right below that and Halo Reach right below that. Then the original Halo, and then Halo 2. I was not big on Halo 2, even though I liked the game. I wasn't big on it, right? But Halo, of course, Halo Combat Evolved has a soft spot in my heart, though, for the nostalgia. I mean, that was like I said last episode, like that was one of the first games that really spoke to me. It was one of the first M-rated games I ever bought, and it was just such a cool game back in the day, and still good. It's still good to play. But yeah, Halo 3, excellent game. Definitely an S tier. Definitely very good. Definitely play that if you have it. The Master Chief Collection definitely was worth it for at least the first half of the Halo series. So the next one I would like to play is Halo 4. I played that one back in the day when it came out, and I had fun with it, but it's been since it came out, that's as long as it's been since I played it, so we'll see how that goes. And then eventually I do want to play Halo 5. I only played like the first couple missions in that game back in the day, and I turned it off, so I would like to eventually play through the entire thing. And I've already played through Infinite on my own time, but maybe we'll play through that again just to cap off the series, kind of like we did for God of War, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that Halo is so popular, and they can't let the series die. It's because those first like 5 games in the series were just so good, and even like the weakest of the series is still really fun to play. So, yeah, there you go. All right, let's move on to what's in the news. I obviously don't have to tell you what the first news story here is. I could literally just sit here in silence for it and just have the picture over here or whatever for the next like 30 minutes, and you would know exactly my thoughts on this. So, Concord, the game that just released a little bit more than 2 weeks ago at this point, has already been shut down by PlayStation. Both the PS5 and the PC versions have been taken offline. They have actually issued refunds to people who bought the game either physically or digitally. You can get the refunds through either PlayStation or the retailer that you bought it through, like Steam or Target or whatever. It's just it's officially offline at this point, so you can't even go and get any of those things that you might want to, I don't know, touch up on. There was a lot of people who went into the game for like the last couple days and were grinding to get the platinum trophy for it. Because I think the platinum trophy was a bit of a grind because you had to win X amount of games or play X amount of games, and that was the one that was like the main grind for everyone. So everyone was going into a match and just immediately jumping off of the edge and dying in one of those no respawn modes. So that was kind of how people were trying to boost through that final hill for the platinum trophy. With the latest patch that was sent out to the various copies of the game, now when you load up the game, it says Concord has been taken offline beginning September 6th. For refund and any other details, visit PlayStation.com/Concord update. Thank you again to all free runners who joined us in the Concord galaxy. So apparently the game only sold about 25,000 copies, and you can guess that there was probably about 5,000 copies were due to scalpers, in my opinion, because there's a lot of people on eBay right now with sealed copies and walls of the game. I mean, literally walls of the game, where they're trying to sell the game for like $100. Some of them for like $1,000 to $7,000. It's just crazy, right? But now apparently the game has become a collector's item. So if you want to get Concord, just to have it on your shelf as a collector's item, you have to pay upwards of $100 to $150 for a sealed copy, which is kind of crazy, knowing that this game was such a flop and it did not make any leeway in terms of gameplay or sales numbers. But now that the game has been taken offline, that's going to be the thing that this game is going to be remembered for. It's not going to be remembered for the characters or the gameplay or whatever story that they had going for it. No, the main thing that this game is going to be remembered for is going offline, and then the sales for the games, the sale price for the game being, jumping up to such heights that were never expected to begin with. I do sometimes kick myself for not grabbing the game when I could, but then again, I was just not interested in the game. Like, I played that open beta, and I said, yeah, I mean, it's fun in bursts. It's not like but I'm not going to play the game every day. It's not a game that I would pay $40 for a multiplayer hero shooter. Like, it's just not something that I'm really going to invest my time and money into. And I think there's a lot of people in the same boat where it's like, yeah, the beta was fun or fun at times, and it didn't feel bad, but it's not a game that I want to put money towards. It's one of those games that's like, yeah, this should definitely be like free to play. It definitely should be like a free to play game, or maybe like $20 at most, right? And with them taking it offline and trying to get back copies of the game, I do feel like maybe they are going to transfer it into a free-to-play model. That way they can start to recoup some of the loss for the game, which does mean that they'll probably add in microtransactions to it, seasonal events and cosmetics that you can buy to try and recoup the loss of money. But when this game does come back, if it does come back, I would be very surprised to see anyone playing it for any more than the first month that it's out, just because they're morbidly curious to see what they missed out on back when the game originally released. And once if the game does re-release in free-to-play mode, hopefully that means that physical copies of the game will go back down in price. I remember when Battleborn came out, that was like a $60 game. And then the game just did not last for more than a year, right? Player base left, etc., etc. They kept the servers up for quite some time, but by the end of the run for Battleborn, the game was like at Five Belows. And if you don't know what a Five Below is, it's a store that only sells things that are $5 or less, and it was showing up on Five Below shelves as a scam, in my opinion, because the servers were already offline when the game was on the shelves, so you couldn't even play it. You would put it in your PlayStation, and you couldn't access any of the online content, which the entire game was just online content. So it's a little bit different for Concord, at least, where actually it's almost a 180, and now that I think about it, because now the game is taken offline, but the price for the game has soared because it's now a collector's item, quote unquote. So it's kind of the opposite, where this game is, for whatever reason, becoming the talk of the town, whereas Battleborn and other games that are like it just kind of petered out and went into the bargain bin, right? So when when the game was announced to be being taken offline, the developers behind the game, Firewalk Studios, put this out on Twitter. They said, while many qualities of the experience resonated with players, we also recognize that other aspects of the game and our initial launch didn't land the way we intended. The shooter will be taken offline Friday, September 6th. And once again, there was no mention of if the game was coming back, or if they're just going to write it off as a loss, or if they're going to transform it into a free-to-play model, or what they're going to do with it. At this point, it's hard to say. It's hard to even think about what they could do with this game to make it more appealing to the broader audience, because they released Concord into a oversaturated market of hero shooters, especially because Marvel's Rivals, which is coming out in I don't know. I don't remember when that's coming out. Like in December or something like that. It's fully being released on all different platforms. That has been doing pretty good because it's free to play. You have your Overwatch. People still play Overwatch 2 a lot. And you have other various hero shooters or games that are sort of hero shooter adjacent that are either free to play or a very low price tag for entry. And they were just automatically going to destroy Concord in every single way because this game was $40. And I understand that they need to recoup the lost time and money for the game by giving it a price tag. 8 years of development cannot be cheap. But in the end, when you're designing a game like this that seems like it could be a co-op shooter, at the beginning of it, like a Guardians of the Galaxy ripoff game, but turns out to be a hero shooter, and there's a collective ugh from every single person watching your PlayStation Direct, like just then and there, like that's when you should have been like, oh shit, I think we need to go back and retool this thing or do something before launch. And of course, there's people who really enjoyed the game. I mean, I'm not gonna say that the game was entirely a flop, because there are a group of people, like 1,000 or so people, who are vocal online who say, I loved Concord. I really enjoyed Concord. I played that every single day until it died. More power to you. But the general video game audience is going to look at this game and say, well, I can just play Overwatch for free. I can just play Counter-Strike for free. I can just play Team Fortress 2 for free. There's no reason for me to pick up a $40 game on the PC or console that already has superior hero shooters all around it, right? And I know Counter-Strike's not a hero shooter. I was just kind of throwing that out there because it's a free-to-play shooter. So, and with Slipgate coming out soon too, like that's kind of hero shooter adjacent at this point with a class system. It's not exactly a hero shooter, but it's got a class system in there. And that's also going to be free. Slipgate 2, and also Splitgate 1 is free still too. Like I just see no room in the current video game market for something like Concord, which is unfortunate because I think that there's a couple character designs in there that are really interesting. You can definitely tell when they really put a lot of effort into the character designs. Like the characters that are on the cover of the game have good character designs. They're not bad character designs at all. And there's a couple that are in the game itself that are also decently good character designs. And, the world of Concord, they set it up so well with that initial PlayStation Direct cinematic trailer where they had the characters kind of like palling around inside of a bar, and the one guy's using the hot sauce. He's a bit cringy, of course, but, they kind of set it up pretty well where they're like, oh, we're protecting this asset, and kind of like a comedy of events happens, and there's quirks and quips being thrown out everywhere. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of like a Guardians of the Galaxy kind of game, adjacent game. I would totally play something like this with a couple friends or something. But instead of it being like a co-op shooter where you were going up through levels and stuff like that in this open world of Concord, or universe of Concord, it's just a hero shooter. And the story is relegated to an opening cutscene that changes every so often. Or there's like YouTube videos that are like, here's the story behind the character. And of course, there's like an encyclopedia inside the game that would be like, oh, this is the story behind this race of characters or this ethnicity of characters or whatever, right? So in the end, like I said, they're offering people full refunds, and there's nothing else to say other than, for whatever reason, the game has now surged in collector's prices, and at this point, if they do re-release the game, it's probably going to be free to play. And in similar news, the section in Amazon Prime's Secret Level anthology series, there's a full episode dedicated to Concord. and they are keeping that in the slot of episodes, which makes sense because obviously it's a whole different group of people. They were paid to make a TV episode or an episode of this secret level show dedicated to Concord. They put a lot of work into it, the animators and everything that needed to be paid. Of course they're going to keep the Concord episode in there. It's not like it's not going to be in there, right? And it would be kind of a dumb thing to take it out simply because that would be just a waste of time and materials, right? I'm sure the episode's fine. Like I haven't watched any of it yet. I don't even know if it's out yet, honestly. And but you know, it's just one of those things. It's just it's going to be a bit weird because like, okay, here's a game that's featured in secret level. It's not even playable. It's not even playable anymore. It's gone. It's just kind of interesting, just kind of weird. So that's the Concord saga. If you've been following it from the beginning, you know it's been a bit of a train wreck since the get-go. All the way back to that first reveal where they showed that cinematic trailer and then went into the gameplay, and it was like, oh, it's just a hero shooter. And I think everyone collectively had the same response to that. And even though there are a couple people out there who are like, oh, a PlayStation hero shooter, that's a cool idea. I will definitely play that. There were a lot of people out there. I mean, 25,000 copies sold is not a small number, but it's also not enough to justify keeping the game up and running, I suppose. And with a lot of those copies probably being scalpers or people who played the game once and then dropped it, the player base on Steam was like down to the hundreds by the end of the week here. And I could guess that the PlayStation numbers weren't too far away from that either. And as I said, as I speculated last week, you know, if the peak number of players for Steam was like 600 something players, I was guessing that maybe like there's an extra 1,500 on PlayStation specifically. That was probably the peak there. So that is definitely that is a flop. That is flop material. It's unfortunate. Like I said, it's unfortunate. There's a lot of people put a lot of passion, time, love, money into this game. You know, obviously there's a lot of people who worked on this game, and it's very sad that their game, you know, this thing that they've been working on for 8 years had such a poor reception and didn't sell well and is being shut down. It's unfortunate, but honestly, I think everyone could see this coming. And like I said last week too, like I wasn't sure how long Concord was going to last. Even after playing that beta, I'm like, I'm not sold on buying the game because it could be gone in a year. And of course, a year was obviously way too long. It was only 2 weeks, but still, if I wasn't willing to buy the game because I thought the game wasn't going to last a year, just think about the other people who played the beta and hated it, you know. But yeah, it's a bit of a sad story, and it's unfortunate, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles in the video game world. So coming off the tail end of the Concord experience, an executive in Sony said that they don't have enough original IPs. Speaking to the Financial Times, Sony CFO Hiroki Toki said, whether it's for games, films, or anime, we don't have that much IP that we fostered from the beginning. We're lacking the early phase of IP, and that's an issue for us. In a future part of the interview, he said, we have the technology and creation in the area where we like and where we can contribute the most. By putting our efforts in creation, that also means that we will work with our partners on the distribution side. So essentially, what he's saying is, "Oh, woe is us. Concord didn't work out. We don't have the very good legacy IP." That's essentially what he just said, and maybe it's a translation error. Maybe he meant something else. But as I just said from Astro Bot, there are so many references to PlayStation things that have been essentially lost in time. Things that we haven't thought about since the PS3 or PS2 days. Even some PS1 day era stuff is like, okay, well, we could definitely bring that back. And just looking back at like PlayStation All-Star Battle Royale, like that was a big thing too. Like here's all of our IPs and some other, like, of course, Big Daddy from BioShock was in there too and some other ones. But like just looking at that right there, I mean, you had Fat Princess, which hasn't had a game since PS3 era. You had Parappa the Rappa, which hasn't had a new release since like the PS1 era. Jack and Daxter, who hasn't had a new release since the PS2 era. Infamous, which has now been absent since the PS4 era. Medieval, which has not had a new entry since PSP, PS1, essentially. Little Big Planet, which had the Sackboy game, but it's a Sackboy game. It's a bit different, but it's been a little while since that. Ratchet and Clank, which of course used to have like a release every other year. It felt like relegated to maybe one release every 5 or 6 years. Ape Escape, as I already mentioned, like that hasn't had a new game since like PS2 era. Killzone hasn't had a new game since Shadowfall from the early PS4 days. Sly Cooper hasn't been around since the PS3 days with its Thieves in Time or whatever game that was. Uncharted hasn't had a game since Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy, which obviously was like a pin on the series as a whole, but still, it's like, yeah, it would be nice to keep getting more Uncharted games, maybe follow along with Drake's Daughter. I don't know. And then, of course, Twisted Metal hasn't been around since like PS3. There's so many IPs that I could list off that they seemingly forget. And then you look at a game like Astro Bot that has like very niche stuff in there, and it's showcasing the entire lineage of PlayStation and things that have been popular on PlayStation, and you go, what are you talking about? There's so many characters and IPs that you could work with and just put out smaller packages to just keep those series alive. They could easily put out an Ape Escape game for like $40, the same price as Concord. They could easily put out an Ape Escape game for $40, have it be a classic Ape Escape experience, but with new controls, new graphics, etc. That would sell. I would think that would sell pretty well. Sly Cooper, you could easily bring him back with like a remastered trilogy or quadrilogy, and then you could also put out a new game, much like Crash Bandicoot 5 or 4. I'm sorry, 4 at a time. It's about time. You could easily fund these games inside of smaller studios or give them to other talented studios like Toys for Bob, who are now on their own essentially at this point. You could easily split up your IPs and give them to other companies to do things with, but you won't do that. You only want to focus on the big budget AAA games that are either flops or they make you a ton of money. And right now, sure, a lot of things are making a lot of money for them. Horizon, God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, etc. made a lot of money for them. But you also need to remember that, like, when something flops, that's huge. Concord flopping, that has to be like $500 million in the toilet right there, right? But imagine if you had a couple of other games that were low budget, like $10 million games that sold well, that recouped the money and more, because they're just IPs, legacy IPs that people enjoyed. You have those legacy IPs. Don't say that you don't have IPs that you didn't foster from the beginning. Like, sure, you did sell off, like a lot of those IPs have gone to other places like Spyro and Crash and whatever, but you still do have a lot of original IPs that are just not being worked with, not having anything being made with them. And I think that they could easily fund something smaller that would boost their sales numbers. I mean, look at Astro Bot. I mean, Astro Bot is technically a smaller game compared to the other ones that they've released recently, especially Concord. The Concord was supposed to be the big game. They weren't even like putting out a lot of trailers for Astro Bot until recently because Concord was doing so poorly. And yeah, sure, Astro Bot had a couple showings here and there at different showcases and stuff like that. But the thing is, like, in general, Concord was being pushed to people in mostly America and Europe. It was Concord. You didn't really get a lot of Astro Bot because Astro Bot was technically the smaller game that wasn't going to sell as well as Concord. But look at this, the total 180 happened here. Astro Bot selling well, Concord completely taken offline, refunds issued. So do what you will with that information. But as of right now, I mean, me and a lot of other people, I'm sure, know that Sony has a lot of IPs that they could be utilizing, but they just aren't. And that begins at the top with the people who only see the numbers, and they see that Last of Us sells, they see God of War sells, they see Ratchet and Clank sells, they see that Ghost of Tsushima sold really well. So we're going to fund a Ghost of Tsushima 2 right away, but ignore all the other IPs from the same company, right? I think about the one-off Sony games too, like Heavenly Sword and stuff like that, where it's like you had one game that was decent, but just maybe came out in the wrong era, didn't have the right technology for it. I could totally see them doing Heavenly Sword 2 and revamping the game entirely, bringing it out of that PS3 jankiness and giving it like a full rebuild and giving it new combat and giving it like a unique perspective, right? But instead, they just said, "Oh, Heavenly Sword. What's Heavenly Sword?" They claim we never had something called Heavenly Sword in our original IP list. That's ridiculous. So that's that as well. Next up, Minecraft. The Minecraft movie, or I guess it's called a Minecraft movie. Is that the official trailer? The official trailer has been released, and it. Oh boy, video game movies peaked at some point. It wasn't a very high peak, but they definitely peaked, and now we're back to getting garbage. I swear, with the Borderlands movie and now the Minecraft movie. Obviously this is designed. This is obviously designed more for kids. What are you gonna do? But it just does not look great. The designs of the various creatures in the game look disgusting. The world looks disgusting. The human actors in it just obviously look way out of place. They have Jason Momoa in here, and I don't know what they're trying to do with him. They have Jack Black in here, and he's, I don't know. I feel like he's fine, but once again, why are we putting Jack Black into all these different properties? I don't know. Borderlands, Minecraft, Nintendo, but Mario. He did a good job as Bowser. Like, I'm not saying that like we should never put him in another movie again, but I feel like at this point, like, I understand, like, he's a big video game fan. He wants to be in these movies and shows that are based off of things he loves. But at some point, you have to be like, okay, we enjoyed you in this, but we need a break from the Jack Black train. So this is coming out in 2025. It's one of those things that it's obviously made for kids, and I'm sure we'll go see it. I mean, I'm a sucker for seeing cringy movies like Five Nights at Freddy's and stuff like that. So we'll probably be seeing it, but will I enjoy it? I don't know. It's yet to be seen. As of right now, I don't like the design of the world itself. There's some people saying like, "Oh my God, it looks so amazing. Look at the CG and blah 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 blah." I don't know. Am I alone on this hill that like the sheep from the trailer looked awful and the llama and the wolf looked awful, and like sure the world around them looks fine, but like I'm not sold. For sure I'm not sold. But if you're a kid or you have a kid who's very into Minecraft, I'm sure that they will be very excited to see the Minecraft movie. So as of right now, it's coming in 2025, cinemas only, and we'll see how that does. All right, so a lot of times layoffs happen after a game's release, but for the Until Dawn remake, they've already been hit with layoffs before the game is even out. The game is slated to be coming out October 4th, and they've already lost a big chunk of developers from Ballistic Moon, the people who made or who remastered the game. In a statement, they said, "It is with deep regret and heavy heart that we must make the tough decision to significantly scale down our team to secure the future of our studio. This comes after our development of Until Dawn for PS5 and PC." They also said that that they are profoundly sorry, and it's incredibly difficult to let go of these people. So they didn't say exactly how many developers are going to be impacted by this, but I'm sure. I mean, if they're saying it's a large chunk of employees, it's probably. I mean, I would gander to say it's about 100 people, maybe. Say what you want, but an Until Dawn remake is not going to fly off the shelves, in my opinion. Like, sure, the base game is fine, and it does have its fans. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, to remake a game entirely, give it the same name, give it a new coat of paint, give it all that new lighting textures and some new scenes here and there. I don't know if it's enough to really sell people on, and I feel like Astro Bot is really going to lift up PlayStation in this dark era for them where Concord sold poorly, and I think the Until Dawn remake is going to sell poorly as well because it's a $60 game. If you've already played, you don't really need to play the updated version. There's not enough in there to really make it worth a replay, unless you're just a super fan of the game. If you're a super fan of the game, then boom, bada bing, there you go. You get this nice newly polished experience, and you get a couple new things here and there, and the totems get mixed around. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it's the same game that you already played years ago. And if they had a $10 upgrade path or something similar, I would totally pay $10 to play a remake version of a game that I already own, but I already own the game. And it's possible that they did not do a $10 upgrade because the game was on PlayStation Plus, because they released it for no extra cost on PlayStation Plus, and so many people have the game on PlayStation Plus. An upgrade path for the game might tank the sales, but I think you're going to tank the sales anyway because you're releasing a game that was already released in 2014, 10 years ago, that did not need a remake or a remaster. I don't think anyone was pining for a remake or remaster or even a re-release of Until Dawn because the base game is fine as it is. But yeah, the studio itself had to already lay off people. And along with that, Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, the studio that developed that, which was, I believe, a subsidiary or a smaller team inside of Rocksteady Studios. But they, of course, have suffered layoffs. Obviously, the game did not sell very well, and I'm sure that the seasons of content isn't doing as well either as they were hoping. But mostly inside of the QA department, people have been laid off. About 50% of the QA team has been laid off, which honestly, 33 employees was cut to 15. So like it's not a terrible layoff in terms of like, Xbox was laying off like thousands of people at some point. So it's not like a crazy layoff, but it is, it's still a layoff, and it's still unfortunate to hear that they have to cut jobs. But that does mean that maybe they're just done with the quality assurance stuff. They don't really need to have as many people on to do that kind of thing, and now they're just working on the game as a live service experience. I don't think that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is going to end its development within the next year, but it's possible that by next year, around the anniversary of the game, is when they'll be like, okay, that's it. That's the last hurrah. But we shall see. And in the end, I know that the game was a bit of a failure for WB and Rocksteady, and obviously there's a lot of people who didn't want to even work on a live service game inside of the Batman Arkham universe. They just wanted to make an Arkham game. I get it. I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was actually kind of good, but that's coming from a person who doesn't really play live service games. So if this is a bad live service game, I don't really know because I don't really play them. I mean, I played Destiny, and I didn't really like Destiny. So why would I like this? I don't know. Maybe it's just because I enjoyed the story that they had, and I thought the gameplay with King Shark was good, which ended up giving it a 4 out of 5, which is a lot higher than a lot of people did. But that's just me. That's just my opinion. All right, next up, Enotria. Enotria, the last song. The developers for the game came out on Twitter and claimed that Microsoft was creating extra challenges for the game to be released on the same day as everyone else. So in the press release, they said, "We believe that Xbox is blessed with a huge gaming community, and we would love to release Enotria on your platform as fast as possible, as we spend a lot of money and resources to make it happen. But this task is nearly impossible, with Microsoft taking months to reply to us when we have the game ready for submission. If you'd like to help us, please let Xbox know about our situation. If we have a dedicated Xbox account manager to help us out of this issue, If we had a dedicated Xbox account manager to help us out of this issue would not exist. Thank you very much." So yeah, they went out on Twitter. They put out a call to arms, saying like, "Hey, it's not really us that's at fault here. Xbox is just taking forever to get back to us with whatever they need to get back to them for." So a day after that was publicly shown off, announced, I guess, or they publicly put out that statement, Phil Spencer personally reached out to the developer, and they got the ball rolling for the release of the game. So now, a day later, on Twitter, the developers for Enotria came out and said, "We would like to officially thank Phil Spencer and his team for reaching out to us promptly and helping us resolve the situation. We'd also like to thank our amazing community for all the support shown in the recent days. Your voice has been heard very loud and clear, and your commitment has been heartwarming. We are now working closely with Microsoft, and we hope this collaboration will lead to the game's release on Xbox as soon as possible." So it's there's a comment on PureXbox.com by a guy named Data Monkey who says, "Amazing what a bit of bad publicity will do." And it's like, yeah, a little bit of bad publicity will really kick some people into high gear. And I think that also this is compounded with the fact that other studios have also said, like, hey, we're trying to get our game on Xbox, but there's like this wall that we're having to cross that's taking longer than what we were hoping for, so the game won't be released until maybe a year later or maybe a couple months later. Same thing it was happening with the Black Myth Wukong team, where they're not releasing the game immediately on the Xbox services. Of course, I should probably wait on that because there's a bit more to that story. But as for Enotria, the last song, it seems like Xbox was just not paying attention or maybe caught up in other things, and they didn't give this team the resources that they needed to push out the game as quickly as they wanted to. So the game will be coming to Xbox as quickly as they can. I don't believe the game is out yet, so it's possible that it could still reach the date for that. But I think it's very interesting that the developer, they came out on Twitter and they said, hey, this is what's happening. This is why you're not getting the game. They were very crystal clear about that. And Xbox said, oh shit, we need to fix this right now. And I think that this obviously was compounded by the fact that there's other studios also having a bit of trouble with Xbox. So it's possible that this does start a trend, and developers who are having trouble putting their games on specific consoles reach out to them publicly instead of privately. That could start a trend of developers doing that. I don't know if it'll help the situation or worsen it, but in this case, it helped. Moving over to Black Myth Wukong, the Xbox delay is reportedly tied to a PlayStation 5 exclusivity deal, which I've already touched on before. The developers of the game said that there was no exclusivity deal. They're just putting it out on PlayStation first because they have the game done on PlayStation and PC first. But a representative inside of Xbox said that, or they were talking to like IGN, and they said that there are no tech issues that would delay Black Myth Wukong, which was reported by Xbox. Rather, the Xbox delay is a result of an exclusivity deal neither Game Science nor Sony have publicized, the source said. The source described the rumors of tech issues as inaccurate for the Xbox. A couple days later, in an article from Forbes, apparently maybe a similar, or a person once again reached out to Forbes and said, the Microsoft representative reached out to Forbes and said, as we have said before, we're excited for the launch of Black Myth Wukong on the Series X and S, and we are working with Game Science to bring our game to other platforms. We'd prefer not to comment about the details made by our partners with other platform holders, but we can confirm that the delay is not due to Xbox platform limitations that have been raised to us. So this does kind of put a bit of a question mark on why Black Myth Wukong wasn't being put out onto the Xbox Series X and S. If it's true that the S is not causing delays for the game, obviously there's other games that have that another and like Avowed is one of the ones that comes to mind where it's like the Xbox Series S is like limiting how fast they can get the game out because it's so hard to work within the confines of that technology. But if Xbox themselves is saying and the developer themselves are mentioning that it's not a tech issue, then I mean, what can we really say other than, okay, then there must be some sort of exclusivity deal, or it's just possible that they just don't want to release it onto the Xbox yet. They're going to wait and release it later. I mean, they have every right to do that if they so desire, but then again, it is a bit fishy that the game is on PlayStation, it is on PC and Epic Store, and the Xbox version, for whatever reason, if it is ready to go and it's not a tech issue causing issues for it not to be released, why isn't it released? I don't know. It's also possible that in the background they're doing QA testing, quality assurance testing, and the Xbox needs some tweaking. That's also a highly likely thing. Like, sure, maybe it's not like a spec issue in terms of tech issues, but it could just be like, hey, we're having a bit. Maybe they're having a bit more trouble with the Xbox issue. Maybe these are very different platforms from PC, the PS4 and 5 to Xbox. They're obviously very different platforms. So designing a game around all those different platforms does take, one team on PC, one team on PlayStation, one team on Xbox to port the games over. It's not just a quick press a button and the game is on Xbox. So maybe they're running into some issues there with developing the game for a different platform that they did not run into on PS5. Maybe that's a separate issue from like a spec or a tech issue. Like that's a bit of a separate issue there. So I guess we'll find out more as the months go on, and I will keep you all updated. All right. In other news, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has launched a retro games social media account for the early days collection that's going to be coming in 2024 at some point. The new retro games account is at YGO Retro Games. So it's an official account by the creators of Yu-Gi-Oh, the people behind Yu-Gi-Oh. And essentially, they're asking you to follow it to stay updated with the early days collection and also early Yu-Gi-Oh TCG retro themed products, which is kind of exciting for people like me who really only like the retro stuff. Right now, it only has about 8,000 followers, so it's not like a super success, I guess. But they've only posted one thing and nothing too major. But I think that this is a good idea because there are a lot of people who still really love the old school Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, like especially the old Yu-Gi-Oh style cards. I mean, there's a reason why Yu-Gi-Oh put out a speed duel. The speed duel sets. They were sets that were designed around like that older style of play, but just kind of speeding up a little bit, having more options for you. And also pretty much completely taking out things like your XYZ summons and stuff like that are just kind of mumble and jumble up the game itself, in my opinion. So having this retro themed Twitter account and having these a retro themed game coming out, I think the sales of the game and whatever else they decide to release are really going to help Konami see is it worth it to invest more into the retro style games. So we haven't really had any other information about the early days collection yet, but I'm guessing we'll see more soon, especially because of the this Twitter account coming out. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do in the future with Yu-Gi-Oh! And with this retro account. Hopefully that means that they will be putting out more retro stuff. A lot of people are hoping for the console versions of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Games to also come around because there's that Legacy of the Roses game or whatever, and there's also the Coliseum game, or I forget the exact name of them, but they were very unique Yu-Gi-Oh! Games that did not use the card games. It was more so whole new rule sets for the game. The games that were based on the cards were the Game Boy games and the Game Boy Advance games, which I really enjoyed the one that I had back in the day. So that's why I went ahead and pre-ordered this almost right away. But I'm excited to see what they do in the future. And as of right now, it's a wait and see type thing. All right, the 25th anniversary for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is right around the corner, and the Twitter page has been updated for the game. And also there's a new banner featuring new artwork of a skateboarder doing I don't know what that would be, an ollie, or no, not even an ollie. That's a whatever the move is called, whatever it is, with 25th anniversary THPS below it. So I'm wondering if they're doing something special for this, or it could mean absolutely nothing, and they're just acknowledging that it's been 25 years since the original game released. And as we all know, the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3+4 remaster was shut down by Activision or rejected. It's possible that Xbox started back up the production for that though, so it's maybe so. But I would like to see them bring the series back, not in the same way as Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5, of course, but I would like to see them bring it back kind of in that Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2 remake kind of way where You just update the graphics, give it a bit more of a modern control scheme, and give it more of those things like being able to, you know, reverse into a manual and keep your combo going. You know, stuff like the quality of life stuff like that. Just kind of keep updating those things. But I guess we'll see what happens in the future. And finally, for the news today, Charles Martinet revealed his favorite Super Mario games during an interview at Nintendo Live 2024. The famous Mario voice actor, and of course he did other things as well throughout the years, said that Super Mario Galaxy, was one of his favorites. He did not specifically say which one was his favorite, but he said that he loves sandbox games, and he highlighted Super Mario Galaxy first, saying that it was unbelievable. He also mentioned games like Super Mario 3D World, Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, Super Mario Odyssey, and Luigi's Mansion. He said that game just touches his heart. So, if you're ever wondering what his favorite games were, it's probably the most obvious answer ever. But pretty much any of the Super Mario 3D games that he voice acted in, and of course Luigi's Mansion, he did do the voice for Luigi's Mansion as well. So, yeah, actually most of the Luigi games. But there you go. There's his favorite Mario games. Okay, let's move on to what's coming soon. Okay, the Lego Harry Potter collection will be re-releasing on the PS5, Xbox Series X, and Steam. So back in the day, it was Lego Harry Potter 1 through 4, years 1 through 4, and then they released years 5 through 7, which were, I believe they originally released on the PS3, I'm pretty sure. Those games were re-released in a bundle, and then they were remastered for the PS4. And now the entire series is getting a third re-release on the PS5 and the other consoles I already said on October 8th. The package will be available digitally on on storefronts. There is no physical version planned as of this moment. It will include all the previous DLCs for the games though, so don't worry about that. This port is being done by Double 11. It'll run at 60 FPS and native 4K. It'll feature all the various things for what you come to expect: higher resolutions, better lighting effects, and haptic feedback support for the DualSense controllers. If you already own a copy on Xbox One, Steam, or PlayStation 4, you can get the new version of the game for a discount. Not for free though, which is kind of crazy. But there's a lot of people who like the Harry Potter collection, Lego Harry Potter collection. There's also a lot of people pining for the older Harry Potter games, like the PS1 era and PS2 era games to come back, but I don't know if we'll see that. But the Lego Harry Potter games, I think they were relatively well received. I think there was a game-breaking bug in one of them that I got stuck at during my playthrough of the games, and I just kind of stopped playing and never came back. But I think that a lot of people really enjoyed the Lego Harry Potter games, and right now, they're kind of jumping on the Harry Potter bandwagon. We had Harry Potter, that Hogwarts Legacy game, then we had the Quidditch game that just came out, and now, boom bada bing, we're re-releasing the Lego Harry Potter game for the people who just really love Harry Potter. They can't get enough of Harry Potter, so if you want to relive the magic of Lego Harry Potter, you can do that now. Well, I guess you can do that on October 8th when the games re-release once again for the next-gen consoles. Silent Hill 2, the remake, had a very, very lengthy, what I call a showcase, gameplay showcase for the game, where they essentially went through the first hour of gameplay through the remaster, and does it look good? I think in general it looks good. I'm still a bit iffy on this one, especially with the facial animations and like the voice acting, which does resonate with the original version of the game, of course. But I think they did get the atmosphere down pretty well with like the fog and the environment and the sound effects. I don't know. I kind of want to wait on this one to see what people think about it, because I really never have played a Silent Hill game, so like I don't want to just jump into Silent Hill 2. Not, if the original game is better, I would much rather try and play the original game over
over this remake if I can first, and then maybe try the remake down the road. But if you played the Resident Evil remakes, you kind of know how they've kind of structured this one, where they've given a bit of a modern perspective, and they modern amenities for the game, of course. But if you want to check out the gameplay, it's on a YouTube channel that is completely in Japanese, so I can't even tell. But if you search the Silent Hill 2 World's Fastest Gameplay on YouTube, it should show up. That's an hour-long showcase of a demo for the game. So there you go. Pretty interesting. All right, Mario and Luigi Brothership had a trailer called Greetings from Concordia on the Nintendo YouTube channel, of course. This trailer, if you weren't sold on the game but you do love Mario and Luigi, this one probably sold you on the game. As a person who was going to buy this game anyway, because it's a series that I would like to support seeing more of. They definitely gave it a good little showcase here, showing off some of the new stuff that's in the game, like some new traversal techniques and stuff like that, some environments that you're going to be running through. But Mario and Luigi Brothership, that releases on the 7th of November. I'm pretty excited for that. I definitely am going to be checking that out when it comes around. It's just funny that they released this on the same day that Concord was announced to be being shut down. They released this Welcome to Concordia, and it's like, well, Concordia. Some of the names of the locations that you're going to go to are Rumble Island, Twisty Island, Lotta Coins Island, and Desolate Island. So that seems pretty fun. I think the game looks really good. I think the trailer is also really well done too. It gives you just enough to give you a little taste of what to expect in the game. And then also they revealed that the pre-order bonus is a steelbook for the game. So if you pre-order the game on, I guess, a couple of different places, you can actually get a steelbook of Mario and Luigi. It's a reversible one. Well, I guess Mario's on one side, Luigi's on the other, so it's reversible in that way. And there's like stripes going down the sides. I personally think it's a kind of a slick steelbook case for the game. You don't really see too many steelbook cases for Switch games though, so I guess that's kind of interesting, kind of a unique thing there, I suppose. And then, in keeping in line with the Nintendo stuff, the Legend of Zelda 80s cartoon series is getting a DVD re-release. This was an original 13-episode run for this series back in the 80s. So all 13 episodes will be on there, plus I think a few extra bonus things as well. Pre-orders for this will be live on Amazon starting now, and the re-release will be out on the 22nd of October. So if you really love the Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom and you just needed more Legend of Zelda, you can watch this TV show that only had one season for it from Dick Entertainment. So apparently this ran between September and December of 1989, based on the Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2: The Adventures of Link. It seems more so focused on Zelda 2, with the character designs at least. Each episode is about 15-minute long, and it follows Zelda and Link as they attempt to stop Ganon and his minions from obtaining the Triforce of Wisdom. So there you go, if you want to check that out. I think this is like the first time it's been re-released officially, so that's kind of interesting, huh? Also, Yakuza Kiwami might only be a download distribution only. There may not be a physical version for the Nintendo Switch. The developers of the game said that they're not planning on doing a physical release yet, but there could be one in the future. As of right now, the game will arrive on the Switch eShop on the 24th of October for $20, so it's not too bad. I could definitely see them doing a physical version of this game if it sells. I don't know, because if it sells good on the digital front, why would they do a physical version? But I guess if there's enough people asking for a physical version of the game, they might do it. But for being the first Yakuza game on the Switch, I feel like they definitely should be doing a physical version, maybe from limited run or whatever, I don't know. But as of right now, there's no plans for that. The Wacky World of Sports from the Looney Tunes. This is going to be available on the 27th of September. So if you've been really itching for a Looney Tunes-based sports game, that's coming out soon. Don't forget that this is coming from the same people who did a lot of interesting games. Game Mill, they released that NASCAR game from last year, which was decent, but they also published, the King Kong game and the Walking Dead game. So we'll see how this one is. This one is being developed by Bam Tang Games, so I don't really know anything about this one. But the Classic Sport Collection will feature basketball, soccer, golf, and tennis, along with plenty of names from the Looney Tunes series, like Bugs Bunny, Lola Bunny, Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, Elmer Fudd, Sylvester, Taz, Wile E. Coyote, and Road Runner. You'll be playing in various locations like Porky's Farm, Foghorn's Farm, Roadrunner's Canyon, Whispering Woods, Martian Command Center, and Granny's House. And of course, there'll be various things to whack it up, in the game. There will also be local co-op if you want to play with a family or friends. So there you go. Definitely will wait for a sale on this one, but I am interested in seeing this one, or playing this one, I guess, just to see if it's good or not, I suppose. But I will be waiting for a sale. Speaking of Mario Party, in the last segment, Super Mario Party Jamboree, the 5 new boards, had some fresh footage on Twitter shown off. One of the first ones is called Goomba Lagoon, which is a decently sized map. It has like half lava, half lagoon, I guess. Rainbow Galleria is the mall, which has flash sales and other things. Roll'em Raceway is the one with the cars that race along the track. Kind of reminds me of that Nintendo Wii U game, Nintendo Party or whatever it is. Mega Wigglers Tree Party is also on there. This is like a forest area with wigglers and stuff like that. You can actually wake up the wiggler and the map will change. And then the last one they showed off was called King Bowser's Keep. Of course, there's always a Bowser-themed level or something Bowser-related in the levels. This will feature some exploding Mega Koopas and Bowser himself in the middle being like a game show director. Also, the 2 classic boards from Mario Party 1 and 2 will be making a return, as I already talked about. So if you want to check out this game, once again, it's coming out on October 17th. I will be checking out the game. And if you want to play the game with me, make sure you check it out with me. Not sponsored. I'm just very excited. I love Mario Party, and it's kind of been in a slump for a little while, but the Mario Party Superstars game got me back on board. So we'll see if this one keeps the trend going upwards or if it plateaus again. We'll see. Star Wars Bounty Hunter is getting a physical edition, and it's actually available to pre-order right now if you want to check this out. The Star Wars Bounty Hunter re-release or remaster, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be available for $35 on the Limited Run Games website. The pre-orders will be available until the 6th of October, so you have a month to choose whether you want to pre-order or not. It'll be available for Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch, the physical versions. There's a premium version, which will be for $90. This will be shipping between March 1st and 31st. The physical version of the original game is going to be shipping between the February 1st and 28th. But the premium edition comes with a double-sided poster, a steelbook, a commemorative metal coin, a Jango Fett enamel pin, and an individual numbered certificate of authenticity. The master edition of the game is going to be for $180, and that'll ship between July 1st and 31st. This is going to come with a physical copy of the game, a double-sided poster, some lithographs, a steelbook, Jango Fett enamel pin, a premium hardcover strategy guide, which is kind of fun. That's kind of cool. A bounty tracking journal with tracking stickers, so that's actually a pretty helpful thing too. Metal Mythosaur skull, a commemorative metal coin, and an individual certification for the game. Now, I don't think there's enough extra in this to justify the price tag for it. I feel like the $90 version should come with the strategy guide, and they can just like knock off a couple other things. But if you're interested in checking that out, that'll be available soon. I think this version of the game, I think that the standard edition of the game is a good price, $35. I think Glover was also priced at $35, which I think is a good price too. The one thing that I don't like about Limited Run is you have to wait so long to get your game. You order the game and you forget about it, and then you randomly get the game like a year later, it seems like. But if you want to check this out, if you want this this Limited Run Games physical edition, like I said, the pre-orders will be available between September 6th and October 6th. Here are 6 games that are leaving Xbox Game Pass in September. All of these are leaving on the 15th. Ashes of Singularity Escalation, FIFA 23, Payday 3, Slime Rancher 2, Spider Heck, and You Suck at Parking. Those are all going to be leaving on September 15th. So if you want to check any of those out, do that. And then here are the games leaving. There's actually 4 more games leaving PlayStation Plus Extra at the end of this month as well, September 17th. The newly added games to the leaving soon are Unpacking, 13 Sentinels, Argus Rim, Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2, and Planet Coaster. All those will be leaving along with the other ones, which I already talked about last week, but I'll go through them again. Alien Isolation, Cloudpunk, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, Horizon Forbidden West, Marvel Midnight Suns, Nier Replicant, Spiritfarer, and the Star Ocean games. Callus let me know that they aren't like expansion packs. They're all a game, all the JRPG, and I'm sure that Callus will be playing through every single one on his stream before they get off of the service. All right, that's it for today, folks. Let's go ahead and move over to Guess That Song, everyone's favorite part of the episode. No one got last week's song, or at least they haven't put it into the chat, so that's unfortunate. But if you know the name of the song or the game that's from, make sure you put it into the Discord in the Fair 64 Discord section, or you can comment it down below in the YouTube comments if you so desire, or Spotify also has a commenting system as well. If you want to check that out, you can comment on Spotify too. I'll give you a heart and a congratulations. On the Discord, I'll give you a super reaction if you get it correct. You can always ask for hints, folks. I'm not against giving hints for these things, so if you wanna get the ultimate prize of getting the Yahoo for getting the song down, it's up to you. Let's hear today's song right now. All right, like I said, if you know the name of the song and the game that came from, comment below or on the Discord or Spotify. And while you're at it, if you want to, make sure you like this episode of Fair 64, either on YouTube, or if you want to leave a rating on Spotify or a review on Apple Podcasts, I would very much appreciate that. If you're listening to the audio version, I would also really appreciate you swinging over to the YouTube version of the podcast and putting a like on it, and maybe leaving a comment too if you so desire. If you had something to say, I would really appreciate that. I'm always happy to interact with people in the YouTube comments within reason, of course, as long as you're not being overly negative or hateful, I guess. But I would appreciate a like or even a subscription if you want to check me out. I also run another podcast called Film Freaks with a Z. We recently talked about the movie The Terminator. If you want to check that out, that is the most recent episode. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. I really do appreciate it. I stream Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. With the contest being over, we're going back to a normal streaming schedule, and we're going to be starting Castle Crashers on Monday. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm Yemmy the Ferret, and I'm out of here. So long.
The Ferret 64 podcast is owned and edited by Yemmy the Ferret. Small sound clips used throughout the podcast were made by Yemmy the Ferret. The song in the intro and outro is Nightshade by Adhesive Wombat. The Ferret 64 logo was made by Player2P2. News sources include PushSquare.com, NintendoLife.com, and PureXbox.com. All opinions, video game related, are my own. Thank you for listening.